Thank you, Professor Guo. The topic of cities is essential, and having this opportunity of having this dialogue here, especially within this aspect that the professor described, is an honor and a privilege for us. My name is Ricardo Bomfim. I'm responsible for the Circular Economy Department at Enel, Brazil. And with Carlos Eduardo Souza, the head of B2G from Enel X, I'm going to organize this last panel so that we can have the conclusion for today following the logics of the topics that we are discussing, but focused on cities specifically. So, going straight to the point, when we're talking about cities and climate change, for us, we have a significant point for our debate. Firstly, I would like to talk to you about the previous lecture described, which is the view of the city. For us to think about climate change, a key point is to deconstruct some realities or some viewpoints. So when we observe this scenario, which is common in big cities, we tend to naturalize the way through which we observe this city. So a big city would look like this. But this Monday, the ILO brought us a study that is very relevant for the changes that impact people's lives in the big cities. When we look at this recent study, we have, for example, diseases like carcinomas or diseases that affect people who work under the sun. We have 119,000 deaths a year. For people who work in open spaces, because of the low quality of the air, we have almost 900,000 deaths related to cardiorespiratory problems. So talking about climate change is also talking about health. It is rethinking the way through which we see our reality and we see the cities. The cities also express our lifestyles. Not only the way that we occupy the territory, but our expression of how our culture is being materialized in these cities. So in this sense, it is very important to deconstruct these kinds of images. When we talk about mobility as well, something that we see in our reality living in big cities is this huge volume of traffic, which we also have naturalized. When we talk about the logic of circularity, when we start rethinking this process, we start thinking about how these cities can have changes in their transportation matrix, or how we can have new forms of organization that may reduce this need to commute that we have today, and especially the priorities that we have. Earlier, Marcia Massotti brought us some studies that the Enel group has carried out in the last few years. One of them was about future cities and decarbonization, in which we analyzed with the Institute of Research and Technology from São Paulo the climate plans for the city of Rio and São Paulo. We observed in these papers the tendency to achieve the goals. When we create three scenarios, if we don't do anything, in Rio, for example, we're going to go from 11 million tons a year of CO2, and we're going to move on to 18 million tons. In São Paulo, we have 15 million tons of CO2 a year, and if we don't do anything about it, in a few years, we're going to have 30 million. So we have the scenarios for decision making. In São Paulo, we may double the emissions, and in Rio, they also increased significantly. But thinking about the cities in a different way, we tend to achieve the goals in other scenarios. As people said in the other lectures, we have a new form of decision making, a new form of culture. And in this sense, we have to understand what is the meaning of progress. In what way can we look at our organization methods and strategies and say, would this left side be the logics of progress for our society? Or through conservation and preservation, progress may mean the right hand side of the slide. We are here debating the legacy of linear economy. We're bringing a perspective that extracting, transforming, consuming, and disposing is the reality that brought us to this point. But we can observe new paths. And what paths do we have the opportunity to follow? I think that's when we start having a dialogue, right, Carlos? A conversation about the organization of the cities. I think NLX probably brought new opportunities to talk about the subject. Good afternoon. The idea of this talk with Ricardo is bringing the global experience of NLX. Today, NLX is one of the leading companies in infrastructure when we talk about distribution and also in renewable energy. We are one of the biggest generators of renewable energy in the world and in Brazil, and NLX is one of the biggest providers of solutions to our final customers, either the industry, the commerce, and public power, which has to do with a lot of our discussions today. Today, the biggest mission of supporting these customers in their decarbonization and their sustainable solutions with digitalization and electrification is going to bring an added value to the cities, the states, and the federal government. So in the last 5 years, we have worked with projects that range from changes in transportation. When we talk about public transportation today, the biggest fleet of electrical buses belongs to Enel in Latin America. We administrate over 3,000 electrical buses in Santiago and Bogota. And here in Brazil, we have 48 electrical buses in São Paulo. That was a milestone because in the past, we used to think about bringing the structure and the vehicles to the cities and assisting the cities to achieve the best sustainable model, not only to reduce the emissions, but to improve lifestyles. One electrical bus nowadays reduces about 118 tons of CO2 every year, considering a single recharge from 200 to 220 kilometers driven a day. When we look at the amount of buses that we have in Brazil, when we focus on this market, we have these big contributions of the cities to the reduction of CO2 emissions, in our case with NLX, bringing these solutions. When we started designing this model, I'm going to explain this further ahead, it was very easy to implement the model from Chile and Santiago that started in 2016. With 2 electrical buses. It was a leasing model for 10 years. We believed that we would get this model, copy and paste it to Brazil, and it wasn't the reality at all. When the first proposal was presented to an operator in 2019 to start negotiating, we went from north to south of Brazil, and we could only sign the first contract last year. So 4 years after the prospecting started. Last week, I was in Belém, in the state of Pará, up north, taking this chance of COP30 and evaluating how we can implement a sustainable electrified fleet thinking about the buses, but thinking also about the generation of renewable energy, how we can assist the infrastructure, also on this concept of sustainability in the ports. Since we will have a huge amount of people during the COP30 in the city, we need to have an infrastructure of energy, and we need to think about the generated energy or compensating the carbon credits that are going to be applied to that consumption in that region.
So we started this good conversation with the state government, and I believe that within 2 to 3 months we are going to have concrete solutions. So this is an example of opportunities. Next slide, please. When we are able to use solutions aligned to what we saw in the previous presentation, bringing this concept of sustainable cities, for instance, because the cities are responsible for 75% of the world emissions, and the cities are consuming more than 75% of the natural resources, producing 50% of waste. So we have a relevant role as private initiative. We have this mission to contribute for the solutions. So we must bring solutions contributing to urban resilience, optimizing expenses, and all of the projects should think about this baseline, how much you have available and how much you're able to pay with the investments, bringing this economy, because we do not consider the financial aspect, only the sustainability, we won't be able to advance with the project. That was one of the barriers that we observed. So it should be a relationship where everyone is gaining and we're able to generate more positive impacts for future generations. And we've been observing that more and more at the state level, at municipal level. And they always ask me, according to the size of the city, do they have different concerns? This is an overview. In the world, we have 3,100 government clients and 3,300,000 electrical points. We're talking about public lighting. So we are able to make that more modern using LED, having savings of up to 50% in the power bill, improving safety. So the citizen has that safety sense. All the disposal is made in a sustainable way according to environmental law. And when we talk about the public lighting, we are talking about the proper fauna and flora. For instance, Angra dos Reis, the city of Angra dos Reis, and we have Ilha Grande, this island nearby that has a lot of nature. So we are signing the next contract in Maringá next week, and each one of these municipalities has a particular aspect. Cataguases has 80,000 inhabitants, and they had this big concern. They had this intervention in a hospital last week, and the concern of the mayor, beside solving the financial problem in the hospital, was to call us and ask us, how can I generate renewable energy to use here? How can I hire certified energy from the free market? So they have this concern, even if they are a middle-size city. And we have this concept of managed buses. So we have this concept of sustainable infrastructure, all the necessary infrastructure to cater this place or this company or this terminal, this operator, but thought considering renewables. If we don't have 100% renewable energy, this project won't advance. So this is part of our strategy. And this is bringing an ecosystem that is becoming financially sustainable, but also bringing this idea of thinking about implementing solutions that can be replicated. So we're talking about smart buildings, and we are using the PPP law, and we're offering to this municipality or this state this project design that is born from this map concerning energy consumption. And then we propose actions that will make us replace lamps, air conditioning, so that we can have this energy efficiency, and we can have the generation of energy through solar panels, distributed generation, or other energy modality, buying in the free market. And this project becomes a triangle, and it's paid because you have this real-time monitoring, and it's paid with the consumption that existed, bringing savings for the municipality and the contributions in terms of reducing emissions. So this is an overview of what we've been doing in the last years. It's working very well. The guideline was to approve the new strategy, investing in nature, in new projects where we are going to use the strength of the group in terms of concession and distribution. For instance, Rio de Janeiro with the state government, we have this partnership, we have an MOU with Italian companies and the government, so that we are able to develop smart cities, but not only smart cities, but circular smart cities, where we are able to have this framework with this financial project, legal project, and technical project as a base, so that the municipalities can adhere according to their needs. So it's an initiative that is going to start in the next months. We have the municipalities map, and an interesting point by Professor Go was that you cannot consider only the financial variables in the potential municipalities to start with the change, because the idea is that all the municipalities may adhere to the project with their own resources or with a provider. There are well-structured cities that can work with their own resources. I was in the municipality of Salvador, and they are an example. They didn't adhere to this PPP, but with their own resources they were able to improve their illumination park. So they are now investing in electric buses, and we are going to have 200 to 300 electric buses in the next 2 years. So these are initiatives that are going to make a difference. So we have the financial aspect, but also the legal aspect with the transparency portal. This municipality has this ability to start a project and conclude this project, because in this movement, just to give you this example, in this PPP concerning this public lighting, we are able to observe that this is a revolution, because we start with this region for this state, and we are able to bring standards that are easier to provoke this adherence, and encompassing the state governments, so that we can exponentially grow in the next years. So we've been discussing about the scientific world and the professional world. I've just concluded my master thesis, and I was studying this electric grid into smart cities, how to implement this having a success case such as we had in Cataguases and other municipalities that are coming in this sequence. Ricardo, I don't know if you would like to add something. I think that besides we also have some conceptual pillars that are permeating the construction of these projects, and some of them are these ones that are concerning the circular economy. When we observe the priorities when we are building in this process, we have projecting without waste and pollution. So when we observe that this project is generating waste, this is a project mistake, because from the beginning to the end, we must have circular solutions for the materials associated to that initiative. We should keep products and materials being used. The more we are able to expand the useful life of that resource, the better. And it's key to regenerate natural systems because we generate impacts with our actions, and we have to think on how to do that, how to rebuild that, thinking about sustainability in general. So these are the conceptual pillars, and how do they translate into practice with business models that are going to be implemented? For instance, circular inputs. When we talk about renewables, we have this pillar. We have the extension of shelf life. When we invest in maintenance and in prevention with predictive models, we also have this circular perspective, and also sharing. We have shown that picture with many cars in the traffic, but when we observe the different studies, more than 90% of the time the vehicles are not running. So we can have this sharing logics to help us work in this sense. And product as a service, we should not own the service, the product, or we should focus on mobility, on catering the demand. And with new life cycles, when we start talking about circular economy, many times we think about recycling, but recycling is in this last topic, but we have many other possibilities here. That's why we brought this logic of circular smart cities. Precisely. If you could go back, I wanted to make an observation before we talk about this menu of uh, smart cities, because the city should focus on the needs of the citizens. You must have people centered. If, just to show you, when we are talking about maintaining products and materials being used, for instance, this public lighting. I wanted to use LEDs to have a standard, so I'm going to reuse the one that I replaced in the next maintenance moment. So if I remove it from the city center and the rural area needs an extension, so we are going to remove the lamps, it's going to receive maintenance, and it's going to go to the rural area according to the norms. And when you talk about new cycles, for instance, the bus batteries, the electric bus batteries, they have a guarantee. In 8 years they are going to depreciate in maximum of 20%. So if this bus has only this cycle of charge, does it mean that in 8 years we should recycle that battery? No, we could use in other projects such as schools, hospitals, other applications, and you could also have partners with. For instance, we have this factory in Manaus, and we have this negotiation with this partner. So in Santiago, we take the old batteries, we bring back to the factory, and they are going to have its maintenance and send it back to another project. And on the next slide, we observe that all the discussion that we start having with the circular smart city is encompassing, from public lighting, from architectural lighting, smart traffic lights, parking space management. So we have this know-how on technology, and you have this concern with data invasion and also data storage, generating revenues within the project. We are going to see the practical case of Angra dos Reis. They had 3 revenues that were paying for all the costs in the municipalities, and also all the video monitoring. And the 3 revenues were the parking spaces in a traditional way. In the second stage, using technology integrated to the different assets. Today we have this wind generator, this wind turbine that looks like a flying saucer. It's a lamp with 8 LED lamps within this device you have free Wi-Fi for the population, you have the wind turbine to generate energy using wind, you're going to have the solar panel, integrated cameras, and in its base you're going to integrate this charger for electrical vehicles. So this is a single equipment, so you're going to have several of them for the same role. And based on this map, we are going to visit and understand the need of that municipality, how much do they have, how much waste they have, and we have this proposition to design the project to cater to their needs. In this next example, we have the cases of buses. In this case, we have more than 5,000 of them. In Brazil, we are talking about 8,000 buses under prospection, projects that are going to be generated within 2 years, and if we have this longer period, we are going to have 17,000 buses in terms of potential. So the concept now is transportation. We have projects with trucks, so we are trying to get manufacturers to have this retrofits. So we are studying the smaller Volkswagen trucks to make them more modern, and every time you do that you have a gain in terms of emission reduction, better than bringing a new vehicle to the fleet. And all of the project is thought about maintenance and operation in terms of energy because we have the know-how. But when we talk about the bus, for instance, you're going to bring the manufacturer that understand about this business, and the operator is responsible for the operation in our daily lives, being supervised by the municipality or the state government. And we bring this concept of clean energy with all the potential from the Enel group, with the plants that are generating clean power, and we are using the regulation to favor the certified energy and bringing this revolution that is transforming the future of the cities and the states from public lighting, connectivity, technology, safety, efficiency, and mobility. It's beautiful on the slides, but a concrete case, which is the case of the city of Angra dos Reis, we started in 2020 when we won the public bid. It was very hard because it was during the pandemic, so we had to go to São Paulo with no planes. We had to go to the exchange with 3 players. So we won. We had this discount of 30%, and they were only thinking about public lighting. But now with the indicator, we had this goal of 40% of energy efficiency, and now we have 62% of energy efficiency, and 40% of the park is now updated. We are going to conclude within the stipulated due date with 22,000 lighting points, and we started to think about the second phase, how to transform the city. And we started to transform the city understanding what was the need. Angra dos Reis had this violence rate growing when we had the safety program in the capital. We had criminals moving to different regions, so we had to increase monitoring. We mapped all the video monitoring technology existing. The project existed. We didn't destroy the existing project, but we based on that to maximize the results. They had 100 cameras, and now we have 220 of them with different modalities. In terms of Wi-Fi, we had 15 squares with Wi-Fi and with different islands, and it's for free for the entire population, similar to the airports. We are bringing now this real-time communication with the citizens. We have this control center integrated to the city, not only in Angra dos Reis, but also the municipal guard, the military police, the civil police, the road concessionaire, and they're all managing in this crisis center. and optic fiber. All the public buildings are connected, and the connectivity is funded by this project. In this project, the municipality has savings of almost 30 million reais per year. And how do they pay it? With ads. We have 5 clocks, conventional clocks, but they are now integrated to this platform to show real-time ads. Uh, that could be a paid ad or ads from the municipality. You have the asset rent. So now we are going to inaugurate 5G in partnership with Team, and we have this lighting rent as well, and also the parking places. It's a political year because we are going to have elections, so we are suffering a lot with the innovative projects, but it's a source of revenues, and we are able to save the 30 millions that I just mentioned, increasing the quality of services for the citizens.
We have just carried out an assessment from 1 to 5. 5 means totally satisfied, and the satisfaction of the people from Angra dos Reis nowadays is 4.3. They do not depend only on the supply of Enel. And now in the phase 2, we bring the concept of digital trees and loading infrastructure. We are advancing in technology, advancing in systems, but we think also about solar generation and bringing the concept of sustainability in a tangible way for the citizens. This is what we have been doing in Angra. And it goes along the lines of what we were discussing earlier, making the SDGs and what they represent as a purpose be related to how we achieve them. So following how much the energy consumption is decreasing and how many people are being hired, what new businesses are being generated, rethinking the urban infrastructure and the use of these spaces, the way that we are promoting the logics of sustainable consumption and sustainable production, and especially monitoring the emissions. All of this is a package that we understand the concepts of the SDGs are being worked on, but it is also being made clear for the society in different projects that you were mentioning, right, Carlos? This is just to show you some photos. This is the control center. We have the municipal guard, we have the military police, and we have the cameras. These are 230 installed cameras, different types of cameras as well. We have cameras that are focused on security. You can identify license plates. When the car enters the city, we run the license plate to see if they have any other prior problems, and we communicate to the police. We have 5 installed meteorological stations. We predict installations of other meteorological stations to measure the level of the sea and the level of the river to anticipate problems related to climate. From the 15 Wi-Fi points, we have 7 of them implemented. We have 233 connectivity hubs in public units. Just to comment on the meteorological stations, we are saying that we are improving the mapping infrastructure of the climate scenario in the municipality from an economy that was generated by a hiring process. So this is a different way to think about the organization of the city. And here we bring this whole concept that I described throughout the last few minutes that goes from lighting to transportation, other electrified infrastructure that can be explored, transforming this urban infrastructure, keeping in mind a concept of circular and smart city. And when we're talking about bidding rounds, we're talking about how necessary it is to rethink regulatory mechanisms and the model through which the infrastructures of the state hire their services because they need to account for these new possibilities, like the creation of new revenues, the reduction of costs and risks, the focus on innovation. But it requires the bidding notices to have those details. It is difficult to predict the cost within the margins that we have. So when we talk about circularity and the implementation of the circularity with focus on the sustainability, it demands that we review those regulatory frameworks and our models of hiring to include innovative models of hiring. This is just to show you the triangle that I mentioned to you of energy efficiency using our PPP legislation. This is a concrete case for the state of Rio de Janeiro. We presented a project for 1,500 schools. We identified the current consumption of energy, what we could do in lighting and air conditioning to reduce this consumption in 20 to 30%, and what would be the appropriate size of solar plants to be able to attend to this whole economy and monitor in real time or through reports, so we can create a comparison between different cities. So that was what we have to discuss with you today. Thank you very much for your participation, and we are open for questions.